We are only 1 month into 2023 and already there have been so many trends that have come out of nowhere and made products jump to those first pages of Amazon and Etsy seemingly without notice. In today's video, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest trends that I've been seeing and I predict is going to continue to sell like crazy going into the rest of the year. If you feel like you really missed out on making tons of profit jumping onto some of those biggest trends during the last quarter of last year, this is your opportunity to really take advantage of this emerging trend and make some amazing designs that are going to continue to sell this year and after that as well. The trend that I'm talking about that is selling super well already and is going to do even better throughout the rest of the year is Y2K and early 2000s nostalgia designs. In this video, I'm going to share with you several niches within that Y2K 2000s trend and how to make a best-selling design to go along with them that really feeds into that early 2000s aesthetic that everyone is loving right now. Don't worry if you're not an amazing designer because these designs are going to be super easy to do so that you can really take advantage of this trend. But before jumping into those best-selling niches, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Kittl. Kittl is one of the best design tools that I've used to create t-shirts. It really has everything you need to make super stunning and professional looking graphics super fast and easily. It lets you do some design features that seem really advanced and complicated, but any beginner graphic designer could master them with Kittl. They have tons of templates created by artists that you can simply take and edit for your own specific purposes, changing the text and the graphics to be able to use in your own print-on-demand business. Today, I'll be using the Kittl Expert Plan to make all of these different designs, but there are a few different subscriptions that Kittl offers, including a free subscription. So if you haven't already made one, I'll have all the information linked for Kittl down in the description box below so that you can make an account today. All right, so now let's get into exactly how I'm going to create these best-selling Y2K designs using Kittl. The first trending niche that I'm seeing in this Y2K design category is one that really dominated the early 2000s, and that is the trend of very girly butterfly designs. Colorful and sweet are definitely two words that I'd use to describe this style that we saw a lot as demonstrated in these photos during the early 2000s. So we're going to use Kittl to try and recreate this aesthetic that is already selling super well on Amazon and Etsy, with people looking to replicate that fashion of the early 2000s and feed into a little bit of that nostalgia. All right, so I am on Kittl and I'm going to go ahead and head to create and go to their t-shirt creator. So for this design, I'm looking for something that's going to be in that butterfly, really girly early 2000s aesthetic. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up butterfly and see what comes up. All right, so there are some really cute designs. Some of these aren't screaming 2000s to me, but definitely this one could be a really good option. Those colors really remind me of some of the things that I wore when I was younger. Let's see. I think that vintage style is really cool, but it's not gonna be for what we're looking for. All right, so after looking at some of the designs, I think the two I'm leaning towards are both this one and this one right here. So actually, I think I am going to go with this butterfly design. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and name this Y2K Butterfly, just so we can remember what it is. And now, one of the first things that I always like to do when I'm on Kittl is because a lot of these designs are optimized for more like posters or other kinds of printed products. So if you're doing it for a shirt, you are going to want to make sure that there is no background. So I'm going to go over to the layers down here, and then I can see that there is this watercolor background. So I am going to unlock that, and then I'm going to make it so we can't see it at all. All right, that is looking really good. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move all of this up towards the top, because when you're designing a t-shirt, it's really important that you're making sure everything is up at the top, because nobody wants a graphic right around where their stomach area is unless you're covering up the entire shirt. So if it's just going to be a partial graphic, make sure it's always near the top. And then one thing to note about Kittl is that even though we did remove the background, I always like to make at least a few more changes to just make sure that my design is completely original. Something with Kittl is you're not going to want to exactly take what a designer has already uploaded and use that without changing the template at all. So usually I'll change the graphic a little bit, I'll change the text, and sometimes change some of the colors, and then that would be totally safe for me to use for print on demand. Okay, so first I'm going to change this color to a more vibrant purple. I think those really bright colors were super popular in the early 2000s. So I think I'm gonna go for something more like this. And then I'm also going to change this red color to more of a pinky color. That's looking super cute. And then again, I'm gonna change this text color. I'm actually going to change this. I think I'm gonna make it say something a little bit fun. You could definitely do no text on a butterfly design like this. I think I'm really gonna lean into people wanting that 2000s nostalgia. I think I'm gonna say Y2K girly. I'm gonna change this font just to make it a little bit easier to read. I'm gonna go over to script fonts and see what we could find. All right, so I went with this modern hand script, and I think that actually is kind of reminiscent of some of the fonts that were popular around that time. All right, so I actually wasn't loving the text how it was originally sideways like that. I just found it was a little bit hard to read, and I actually went ahead and put it just as a little bit of a delicate, smaller font below this butterfly graphic. I think that's really reminiscent of how a lot of the little baby doll tees were at this time, with that really dainty script font that's a little bit cutesy and more bubbly. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and download that. It's important to pay attention to what your download settings are when you're using Kittl. So typically I like to download in pixels as opposed to inches when I am working on print on demand. And then for the best quality for printed products, typically I will download in 300 dpi. So that is going to adjust there. And then you can always change these size settings as well. But typically I find that this size is going to be fine for most of the products that I'm going to put it on. And then most importantly, you're going to want to remove that background so that it's transparent and it's not going to just print on a white box. I'm going to go ahead and download that as a PNG. The next Y2K trend I've seen starting to sell a little bit on Amazon and Etsy, but I really think that it's going to come back with a full force later this year, and that is airbrushed graffiti style designs. In the early 2000s, it was really popular for people to have airbrushed art on just a plain t-shirt. A lot of times people were doing this on their own, or they were buying it from someone who could make this. So today I'm going to show you how we can actually replicate this style that I really think is going to come back in Kittl using print on demand graphics. All right, so that next design we're going to do is going to be in that airbrush, more graffiti art style of a shirt. So I'm going to search a few different things and see what helps us come closer to that exact look. I don't know that anything would be listed under airbrush, but I think there's a few ways we could get to that look. So first I'm going to actually look up airbrush just to see if there could be anything from that. All right, so this is kind of a good option to keep in mind. Let's keep looking. All right, so there's not too many listed under that. So I'm going to actually try graffiti and see what comes up with graffiti, because that might be more of the look we're going for. Okay. All right, so this one is popping out at me. I really like that look, as well as this one. It's not the right size, but we would definitely resize it. And I like kind of those paint splatters that look like the airbrush style that you would get. This is kind of a neat look. And all of these we're going to tweak to actually make it more of that 2000s style. So, I'm going to actually go ahead and pick this design, and we're going to go ahead and resize and edit that. So I'm going to save this as Y2K airbrush. In the previous design, I just kept the size how it was because that was great for print on demand t-shirt purposes. But what you actually can do, it's definitely the wrong size. You don't want to work in a square, or you have a very particular pixel dimension that you need. You can go over here to this settings, and then you can go ahead and resize it to a custom size. So a common size on Amazon that a lot of people like to use is 4500 by 5400. So I'm gonna go ahead and confirm that, and it's resizing my canvas, and then I'm just gonna take all this artwork and stretch it out on the whole thing. All right, so I know right away that this is a font that I don't really love, and I'm probably just going to do one line of text. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a couple of these. And this, a really common word that I saw a lot when I was doing some research on those Y2K designs, and that even I remember, I think, having a shirt that said this was something like angel on it. So I am going to find a more of a script font. Again, a lot of these designs are really leaning into those girlier aspects of the 2000s. There's certainly other trends in the 2000s that didn't so much lean into these girly elements, but this is really what we're going for today, and a trend that I'm really starting to see take off. So let's see. Let's go over again to those script fonts, and we want something a little more substantial this time than we did last time. All right, so this font almost looks a little bit retro to me, but I think that will work for our purposes. And now I'm gonna go ahead and just start deleting some of the elements I know we're not going to want. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the layers and I'm gonna go see if there is any texture. So this right away, it looks like there's no texture, but almost all of these different designs on Kittl are going to have some sort of texture or background. So I removed the background and now we can see that there's a lot of texture here. There we go. Now I'm going to show the background again, just plain black, even though we will download without that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ungroup all of these different elements, and I'm going to get rid of this black box here because I actually want it to have more of that paint splatter behind this. And then I'm going to get rid of this right here as well. All right, so that is already starting to look really cool. But one thing that I'm going to do is actually outline this text. So in a lot of those airbrush designs, the text would be outlined once or even a couple of times. One thing I really like on Kittl is you can just slide the border right here and then it's going to put in as big of a border as you want. So I think I actually want something medium thickness, and then you can change the border color as well. And then because there's a little bit of this overlap right here, I am going to go ahead and spread out the letters just a little bit. So I'm just messing with this line spacing right here until they are just touching. All right, so to me, that's already really starting to look like some of those 2000s designs. I'm gonna kind of mess with these elements here, just get them so they look like they're coming off of the letters a little bit more. I'm gonna change this font too, and I'm actually going to change this blue color to more of a brighter blue. And then even something like this text box, I could add a little bit of a border on if I wanted to, but I think I'm just going to leave that. All right, and then now we are ready to download this. So even though the dimensions are what I want, I'm gonna go ahead and change it so it's 300 DPI just so we get the best quality, remove the background, and then download as a PNG. This next trend is one that I've seen have a huge revival this year and the end of last year, and that is more of leaning into that early 2000s girly gothic aesthetic with black and white designs that also lean into some of those sweeter elements like flowers and butterflies and plants, but also incorporate some of those classic images and graphics that you would see on more of a gothic style t-shirt. So things like skulls and crossbones, but with a little bit of a feminine twist. So we are going to create one of those girly gothic designs in Kittl right now. For this next design, I'm gonna look for something that's a little bit more of that gothic design, and we're gonna add some girly twist to it. So again, there's a few things that I could search, but right away, I think I'm going to look up gothic, and if that doesn't bring up anything, I could look up skull, I could look up dark. There's a bunch of different things. All right, so already there are so many different options. This one is not exactly the gothic style that I'm looking for, but this just screams early 2000s to me. You could definitely take something like that and make an amazing Y2K design. Let's keep looking here. I'm gonna also search skull, some very cool designs, and all of these you can take and tweak for your own purposes. There are so many options, seriously. All right, so after looking for a few minutes, I think I like this one. And if we add some girlier elements, some girlier designs, we can definitely make this lean into that more girly gothic aesthetic. All right, so once again, I'm gonna go ahead and remove that background texture layer. Now for t-shirts, I typically don't like them to be overly complicated, especially if you're selling on some place like Redbubble or Amazon, just because if someone can't see what it says, they're probably not gonna buy it. I like to make all of my text pretty big, so these little ones are super cool, but I don't think it's going to translate super well to a small thumbnail. So let's go ahead and resize this a little bit. And then I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to actually say on my shirt. I was doing a little bit of research, and one of the phrases that I saw on some different posters during the 2000s was something like "so pretty" or "so pretty it hurts," something like that. So I think I'm actually going to do something like "so pretty it hurts." All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and change the text color for this. And then just because I like to change it up, I think I'm gonna add some more elements in here. So I'm thinking either some butterflies or some hearts or some flowers, just something to make it even girlier. Right, so I'm just adding a bunch more of these girlier elements here. All right, so once you play around with it, we're gonna go ahead and download this design. I really like those colors, how it turned out, and adding some of those extra elements made it a little bit more unique than what was already there. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to pixels, and then I'm going to change it to 300 dpi. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and remove that background again and then download as a PNG. Kittl really is an all-in-one design software that has anything you would need as a print-on-demand seller, and it's so easy to use, making it so that you can sell even more products than you would just doing everything on your own. It's definitely a product that I highly recommend. I will again have all of their information linked in the description box below if you do want to start a subscription or even just create a free account today. If you want even more design ideas, I'll link this video with all of the biggest trends that I anticipate for 2023 so you can get a jump start on your designing and create some more amazing designs with Kittl. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.